people who will help guide you in the way God wants you to go. Sound good? Let's say a prayer, and then if you guys can pick a prize without fighting over them, you can have it. If there's any fighting, then we'll just close it down today, and then next time we'll have cool prizes. Well, we're going to pray for them. Okay? Let's pray. Yes. Heavenly Father, I thank you for these young gentlemen, for their willingness to come forward and share with you. May you continue to guide them in the way you would have them go, that they can seek you in all things, you and your wisdom, and that you can show each and every one of us how we can help support and guide them. Let's call this a name. Amen. All right. Go ahead. Oh, let's see. Okay, what did I say? We can't have any fighting. Okay, so look at me. Look at me. So look at me, guys. Okay, so next time, so here's what we're gonna do. Next week, promise to come back, and I'm gonna have Army guys around. Deal? Yeah. As long as you guys are good all week. Got a deal? Okay. You still no, we're gonna wait. Okay, we're gonna wait. Nobody's gonna have an Army guy today, and then next week we'll have Army guys for all. Deal? All right. Okay, so let's just leave the stuff this week, and we're gonna have cool stuff for you next week. All right, what else? Really? The text for today will come from John chapter 5, verses 1 through 9. Jesus has just arrived in Galilee in his travels. As he'd been in Galilee, he met a royal. He healed this royal's son, and now he has made his way towards Jerusalem. As we read the Gospel of John chapter 5, verses 1 through 9. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for a feast of the Jews. Now there is in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" Sir, the invalid replied, I have no help. I have no one to help me into the pool where the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. Then Jesus said to him, Get up, take up your mat, and walk. At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. The day on which this took place was the Sabbath. Yeah, small town Midwest life is usually quite a blessing. We don't have all the congestion and traffic and people kind of pushing you out of the way in their quest to get where they want, and we're not overcrowded with people always pushing us around. In general, okay, that is a pretty general rule, but not always the case. I have found that there are certain events where that kind of small Midwestern town, nice attitude gets pushed out of the way, and I found that especially to be the case when I was going to go watch my brother-in-law in prom when he was a senior in high school. And unlike life in the big city where there are numerous activities on any given night, in the small town, as many of you know, when there is an activity going on, that is the activity. And that is where everyone shows up to check things out. And so it really wasn't a surprise when we got to the gym where the Grand March was taking place to find a large crowd waiting to be entered. But what was a surprise to me was once the gates were opened, these normally sweet, kind, elderly ladies were willing to just push me out of the way, and they were throwing elbows, and I think a couple of kids got trampled on, and just that small, nice Midwestern town attitude was out the door in these ladies' desire to make sure they had the best possible seat in the house to see the event of the evening. These ladies acted much like I picture many of the people at this pool outside of Jerusalem as they are knocking cripples out of the way in their selfish desire to get into the pool. They are completely focused only on themselves, willing to cast aside the disabled and the needy in their community. And yet, when most people are willing to cast it aside, this man will have an encounter with Jesus that changes everything. As Jesus has now made his way to Jerusalem, he is coming to celebrate a typical Jewish festival. He makes his way to Jerusalem, but just outside the town, he comes to this enormous pool. And this pool serves as a meeting place for all types of people. There is the belief that the pool had special healing powers, and it certainly brought relief from pain and afflictions for people. It's outside the main city at a place called the Sheep Gate. And it's actually a very large pool, but divided into smaller pools with something like a covered porch over it. So it was a very pleasant place to meet and to gather. It was a place you could find rest and get out of the heat of that Middle Eastern sun. And it was also a public place where anyone could go, regardless of your standing in society. So this was a very special place filled with people. It was very crowded. It was believed also that the water there had healing powers. And maybe most important for us looking back today, it is a place that has been distinctly identified through archaeological digs over the years. And it's been found actually relatively easily because as they looked, and as you look at where John described it to be, it was found in exactly the place historically where it would have been expected to be based on John's writing. So not only does that mean that that original audience would be able to have gone to this pool and verify these events, it gives us historical evidence that what John is writing and speaking about is completely true. And John is an eyewitness to these events. And so he writes of this place. It is a great meeting place, but also a place of great waiting. It was a great crowded people. It was a place where many disabled people went for help, both to try and get in the water for some healing, but also a place where they knew many people would be there, and they had the hopes to be able to beg for a few provisions to get by. That there was a reputation of this pool for healing to be brought to them. So people desperate for relief would come there, whether it was a small injury or a minor ache, or you were suffering from something massive. It talks about blindness being cured and paralysis. Relief would come. If you look at verse 4 in chapter 5, even, it kind of explains a little bit of what's going on. If somebody has a pew Bible and wants to read verse 4 of chapter 5, what does it say to us? Who gets there first? Yeah, there's no verse 4, at least in the Pew Bible. If you have maybe a King James version or whatever, it's in there. And if you want to know why that is, talk to one of the youth. We talked about it on Wednesday and quiz them and say, hey, why is that missing? I want to see if they're paying attention or retaining anything that we talk about. So please check that out. But ask them and figure out what's going on. But the point is, whether there was something truly miraculous going on, or whether it was simply a matter of, if you bathe or if you soak it and just kind of rest in natural spring water, you get some relief. If you spend some time in a hot tub, your body feels better. Your body begins to heal as it relaxes. So it might have been something just minor like that. There might have been some major miraculous thing going on. But whatever the case, people came here seeking relief. And that is what this man that Jesus encounters is here for. Not only has he come for relief, but we hear that he has been coming here for 38 years. He is a man desperate, day after day, coming and hoping to find some kind of relief, yet he's in a place where he isn't able to move himself. He can't bring himself to the water. Years of paralysis have left him extremely weak, so he's at a place where he's just suffered and been suffering a lifetime of helplessness. And so as Jesus, though, comes to the pool, he sees this man, he understands his struggle. For this man, trouble has simply become a way of life. Every day is a struggle for him. Yet he shows up day after day, hoping today will be the day where he will get some relief from the pool. And yet he continually comes up short. He's just living in this continual suffering, but Jesus sees this man. He understands what he has been through, and he brings the initiative. He is the one who challenges this man to change. As he asks him, do you want to get well? Is he truly at a place where he wants to change his situation, or has he been lost in the hopelessness? Is he so stuck that he truly just wants to stay there because that fear of change is maybe too great? Jesus has heard the struggle and offers to bring him relief, but only if he is truly willing to make the change. So Jesus is once again bringing hope to the hopeless. But the hopeless has to be willing to make some change and do some work. How often do we get so caught up in our struggles and the hurts of our life that we don't know what to do? How often do we cry out to God to bring us some relief, to change the difficulties in our lives, but we really don't do anything ourselves? And we have to ask ourselves, are we truly willing to make the changes? As Carrie said earlier, are we willing to cast aside something to truly move forward with God? The fact is, God is probably not going to leave the winning lottery ticket in your hands this week. So if you are struggling in your finances, are there things you need to do? Are there sacrifices you need to do to improve your situation and have God guide you through that process. You know, it doesn't often happen that miraculous healing comes to us. You know, it certainly can happen, and God does heal in all things, but we don't see it as often today. So are you willing to work with the people God places in your life to help bring guidance and healing to you? Are you willing to do your part and to step into those things to help bring healing to your life? And so this man, as in his encounter with Jesus, he is challenged to do the hard things, yet he sees Jesus and tries to explain his plight as he says, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred up. While I am getting in, someone else goes down ahead of me. Everyone else is so concerned about themselves, they're willing to just push this man out of the way in their own selfish quest. They're much like the women who are willing to push everyone else out of the way to get the best seat at prom. And yet in this man's state, he's not able to really do much of anything for himself. He has lost his independent determination, and life is just happening to him. He has serious issues that are plaguing him, and he's limited in what he can do for himself. Just as we have serious issues going on in our world today, don't we? We have a war breaking out between Russia and Ukraine, and some of the questions we get asked are, how did this even happen? How does this happen when we have such might to fight against these things, and what do we do about it? And I was listening online to a conversation between a group of pastors this week, and those questions came up, and the first question was, how does this happen in our world? And the observation that they made was because we're just not focused on the right things. We're not focused on the things that truly matter. You know, in America, we're still arguing about an election a year and a half ago. We argue with each other about what the proper gender pronouns are to use for people. We want to make sure we go out and we get the latest gadget, and we know what every celebrity is doing and who they are dating. And while we're worried about all these insignificant things, evil powers are amassing, and we're moving troops, and we heard about it, but we didn't call anyone to do anything. So it happens because we're not focused on what truly matters. We need to pay attention. We need to focus on the struggles of others. We need to see what is going on. We need to pay attention to what is going on in our world, and we need to pay attention to what is going on in our own community. We need to recognize evil for what it is. We need to recognize hurting for what it is, and ask and commit to doing whatever we can to combat those things. And some things in a war in another part of the world, most of us probably can't take an active hand in that. But we can certainly pray. We can recognize that we have a great and a glorious God who has all things in hand. And we can turn it over to Him, and we can trust that He will guide us through these difficult things. And we must commit to doing what we can. We must commit to making the change, to being the change, just as Jesus has recognized this man's predicament and calls on him to be an active part in the change. He challenges this man to have faith, to do what Jesus challenges him to do, as he says, get up, pick up your mat, and walk. Now, Jesus doesn't try and bring him to this pool that has healing powers. He speaks to him. He tells him what he needs to do and challenges him to have the faith to act. Even though there's this pool that has at least some manner of healing properties, that becomes irrelevant with the words of Jesus. Now, they could be in the middle of nowhere, and the same healing would be available to him, made possible through Jesus. Because Jesus makes everything else insignificant. And so he tells this man to pick up his mat. Go take that which is yours. It might have been the only thing in the world that this man owned. He says, pick it up and get walking. It's a simple command, but it's a command the man must choose if he will have the faith to follow through and do what Jesus calls him to do. And with the word of Jesus and this man's faithful commitment to do as he is commanded, we see that at once the man is cured. He picked up his mat and walked. Faithfully, the man gets up and walks away. Healing has come at the word of Jesus, followed by a faithful commitment to do